Okay, so let us start with our measuring and managing risk. Give the heading measuring and managing risk. So first of all, we have to measure and then we have to manage our risk. Okay, so how we will do? Obviously we need to have some procedures or some tools. With the help of that we will be able to measure and manage our risk. So we are going to study about the quantitative measures. Okay, quantitative measures are such measure which gives us the output in numeric terms. Means there is a 7500 will be the amount of loss. Okay, these are the quantitative measures. Then the next we have is the qualitative measures, and qualitative measure will include, okay, first write what is qualitative. It includes the scenario analysis and stress testing. Write down scenario analysis, and then we have stress testing, and at the end we have enterprise risk management. Enterprise risk management, basically we are going to measure our risk and we are going to manage our risk. Clear? Now in order to measure our risk, we have quantitative tools as well as qualitative tools. Quantitative tools give us the output in terms of numbers, and qualitative are taking the stress factors or scenario analysis, and then we will say that how much will be the risk, and then depending on these two I will be having my management, risk management, and the risk management of the whole enterprise, that is the enterprise risk management inside the organization, what we can do so that we can manage our risk. Clear? So now we are going to study about our quantitative, qualitative, and our enterprise risk management. So now inside the quantitative measurement we will do two things: war and economic capital. Okay, though we have other measure also, but that other measures to quantify the risk we will study later, but now we will be having only these two way. Okay, war and economic capital. Now war is really a big topic. Okay, so if you will see that you will be able to understand in 10 minutes or 15 minutes or so, not possible. It really needs a lots of time to understand what war is, and in our whole curriculum we will study about the war many a times. But now I want to give an idea of the war such that whenever you will confront war you will be able to say, okay, I know something about it. Now what is war? The meaning of war is value at risk. Now what is this value at risk? Suppose you have $7,000 in your pocket. $7,000 in your pocket, or rather I would say that I have $7,000 portfolio, means this is the amount which I have invested in the market. Clear? But I want to know what is the amount at risk tomorrow. What is the amount at risk tomorrow? Whether it will be 10%, 5%, 25%. Means I want to know what are the chances, what is the amount that I will lose tomorrow. Okay, so tomorrow anything can happen. Tomorrow market can rise by 5% also, means your portfolio value will increase, or might be the market will go down by 10%, that means you will be having the loss of $700. Might be something new broke down and the market break down by 20%, so you can have the loss of 1400. So I want to know that what is the loss, what is the amount of loss tomorrow I can have. So what I can do in order to know that what is the loss I can have tomorrow, I will take all the historical data. Okay, whatever the historical data available with me for daily basis of the market, I will take that. Okay, and I will arrange them in the ascending order. Means suppose there is a one day in which market have experienced negative 5.5% loss. There is a day in which market experienced negative 5.3%, market experienced 5%, minus 4.7%, so on. There is a market day in which market like open at say 2300 and close at 2300, means market did not give any kind of return. There can be the day in which we have earned 1%, 2%, 3% and so on. So means these are the percentage of returns which I have earned during a period of time. Clear? But now my boss said, tell me what is the amount that I will lose. Okay, and my boss said, I need you to be 95% confident when you will be saying the value. I said that okay, $450 will be the loss, means I am 95% sure that my loss is not going to exceed $450, but yes, there is 5% chance that my loss can exceed $450. If there is 95% chance that loss will not exceed, but still there is 5% chance that dollar will exceed 450. But my boss said, okay, I am not very much satisfied, I want you to be 99% confidence. Okay, you said if you want to be 99% confidence, then I said 630 will be the loss. I am 99% sure that the amount of loss tomorrow will not exceed 630, but still there is 1% chance that your loss will exceed 630. Hope you are getting my point. How I calculated is not your concern, but what I am trying to convey with this percent is your concern. Means this is saying that loss will not exceed this. This is saying that loss will exceed this. Clear? Now, where I can use this concept of war? I can use this concept of war only when my portfolio is a very liquid, means at any time I can liquidate my portfolio without any additional cost, and the market is also under the normal circumstances. I have discussed about the two circumstances, one is normal and other is the stressed means environment is such which is completely uncertain. So I am completely talking about the normal market and my portfolio is very liquid, and war is talking about a very short period of time. Okay, suppose if I want to know what is the war for me in 1 year, now calculating the war for 1 year is quite difficult. Why? Because what is going to happen in 1 year is quite difficult to identify. Clear? So we try to know what is the war for 1 day. Okay, what is the war for 5 days, what is the war for 1 month. Okay, these are the important terms which you need to remember. War is for the shorter period of time. War is useful when you are measuring your portfolio, but your portfolio should have the liquid positions and the market should be under normal circumstances. Clear? So opposite will not be good, means if you are going for the long period, war is not appropriate. If you are going for the illiquid position, war is not appropriate. If the market is not in the normal condition, war is not appropriate. Clear? So you want to calculate 1 day war. And you have created this line. You have created this line for past 1000 days. Okay, you have taken the data of 1000 days and arrange the data in the ascending orders. So somewhat your graph will be like this. Means what? The values which are lower, they have lower probabilities. The value which are in the middle, they have the higher probabilities. And the value which are into the extreme right, they also having the low probability. Means every day you will won't find that market is experienced negative 10%, negative 9%, negative 8%, negative 6%. Every day you will not get the return of 6, 7, 8, 9 or 10%. Clear? But yes, the return of 0, 1, 2, 3, the return of negative 1, 2, 3 are the most common. That's why they have the high probability. If I will create this, here we have probability. Okay, so see, this is the probability. This is the probability for 5%. This is the probability for negative 9%. So this is nothing but a probability graph. Now if I want to know what is the war at 95% confidence interval? Now confidence interval means how much confident I want to be. It can be 99 as well. So when I say that I want to be 95% confidence, then this is my significance level. This is my significance level. Clear? So now what will I do? I will take the 5%. I will take the 5% of 1000. Now what is this 1000? This is the number of data I have. And what is the 5%? This is my significance level. So I am getting 50. Clear? Now 1000 data arranged here, 1000 data arranged here. Clear? Starting from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the data's number, like 90, 9999 and 1000. The data arranged in such a way. Clear? Here we have 49, 50 and 51. These are the number of data. Okay. And here I am putting the data such as minus 10%, minus 9%. Okay. Minus say 8.95%. Then here I am getting 8.75%. These are the returns. Okay. And here I got the return of minus 6.5%. Minus 6.5%. So I will say I will take the 50th data. What is my 50th data? It is minus 6.5%. Minus 6.5%. What is the value of my portfolio? If you remember, it is $7,500. So what is the amount of loss? 7,500 multiplied with 6.5%. Calculate it fast and then tell me. Okay, this is coming as 487.5. 487.5. Now what is the meaning? Okay, not the point. What is the meaning of this $487.5? The meaning is that there is 95% confidence, means you are 95% confident that your loss will not exceed this amount, but you are 5% unsure that there are 5% chances that loss will exceed this amount. Now what about the 99%? In order to know the 99%, what is your significance level? 1%. So you will take the 1% data of 1000, that is 10. Means whatever the percentage, say it is lying here as 7.5%. This is my 10th data. So now what you will say? $7,500 multiplied with the amount of loss, that is 7.5%. So what will be the amount of loss? Calculate it fast. It's very easy. 562.5. This is the dollar amount which I can lose with 99% confidence interval, but there is 1% chances that my loss will exceed this amount. Okay, so this is the whole idea about the war. Clear? If I will draw a graph for you, clear, and here I am creating that what is the return, and here I am creating their frequency, that how much time they appeared. Clear? Say 0, 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, 80 times. Means what? Say I am saying that 2%, the data which is at 2%, it occurred 80 times. Clear? Or the data at 1% occur 70 times. Clear? In this way I created this graph. Now here is my 5% break, means this is the 50th data. This is the 50th data, and what is the percentage of 50th data? It is 6.5%, negative 6.5%. means if my 5% will broke down, this is the whole amount of loss which I can have. Means I am just talking about this 50th value. Means when I want to be 5% unsure about my loss, I will take the 50th data. When I want to be 99% sure, then I will take the 10th data, that is negative 7.5%. So this is just a glimpse of idea what the war is all about. But yes, the more you will move into this, you will understand more about the war. But now here you just need to have the idea that what it is all about. Okay, so might be there are chances that you will be having lots of doubts and questions regarding the war, but later it all get cleared when you will move to other readings. Clear? Now let us study about the economic capital. Okay, suppose this is my war. Okay, now what is the meaning of war? Means this much amount I can lose, and there is 95% chance that tomorrow I will lose this much of amount. Clear? So if I will keep this much of amount in my reserves, if I will keep this much of amount in my reserves, I will not be bankrupt tomorrow. There is no chance that I will become bankrupt tomorrow, provided the risk will not exceed this percent. Or if I want to be more confident, say 99% confident, then I can keep this much amount of money in my reserves. So the amount which we are keeping as the reserves, okay, the amount which is very liquid, that amount is known as the economic capital. Okay, so if we will be having this one day war amount of losses, we will not become bankrupt by tomorrow only. Clear? So this is the meaning of war. First of all, try to find out what is your risk, and then try to have your economic capital based on the given risk. Then you can be sure that you are able to measure and manage your risk. Clear? So we have done our quantitative. Let us now move to qualitative techniques. Okay, now in qualitative we have two things. One is scenario analysis and the other one is stress testing. One is scenario analysis and the other one is stress testing. Now what is scenario analysis? Basically it is a process. Okay, it is a process, and it consider the potential future risk factors. Means during this process, risk manager, they try to consider that what are the possible potential future risk factor. Suppose interest rate can be the risk factor for my portfolio, or the exchange rate can be the possible future factor which can impact my portfolio. Oil prices can also be the one of the factor which can give me huge amount of losses. Clear? Now suppose my factor is oil prices, and oil prices can really impact and give me huge amount of losses. So I am afraid of oil prices falling. I am afraid of oil prices falling. Clear? But if oil price will rise, I will be very happy. If oil price will rise, I will be very happy. So what I will do, I will create a scenario. Okay, I will create scenario, and in the scenario I will be taking few of the points. Suppose currently the price of the oil is trading at 4,500. I will see what will happen if the price will become 4,800. What will be my income? If the price will become 4,300, what will be my loss? If price will be 4,200, what will be my loss? Clear? And so on, means I will create certain scenarios. This is the best scenario and this is the worst case scenario. Then I will try to compare my best and worst case scenarios. Clear? Got the idea? So what I am doing, I am trying to shock this value to their extreme point. Okay, means if I will take all the historical data, and I will see that in the past the oil prices went till 1300. So I will create this scenario of 1300 and find out that what can be the possible loss if the oil price will fall till 1300. Clear? So this analysis allowed the manager to quantify or to find out what will be the amount of potential losses in the future, though the probability of these losses are very small, but still risk manager need to be aware that what can happen to the portfolio. So this is all about the scenario analysis. Clear? Now stress testing is also a form of scenario analysis. Okay, this is nothing other, but what we are doing in stress testing, suppose there are many factors which are going to impact my business, which are going to impact my profitability, but I will take only one parameter. I will take only one among the all parameter, and I will see that if I am taking the extreme values of this parameter, what can be the losses to my organization. Suppose these are the three factors which are going to impact my business. Okay, all the three are going to impact. Focusly, I am going to take only the exchange, and I will see that what will happen if the exchange rate reaches 120 per dollar, then what will happen to my profitability. I am stressing particularly on one factor. Clear? This is a stress testing. Now the data which we can use in stress testing can be based on two things. I will take the historical data. Okay, means whatever happened in the past, I will take that data, but might be whatever have happened in the past will not happen in the future, so I am taking that particular risk. Or there is another way, is to guess the number. Okay, suppose let me give you first idea. The exchange rate started from 1 rupee per dollar, and this is the highest amount. Okay, if I will take any data in between this, then I am following the historical data. But now if I am saying, okay, what will happen if the dollar value will reach 89.5, what will happen if the dollar value will reach 89.5, means now I am trying to estimate the value of the factors, means what can be the factor value. But with the help of model you are trying to estimate the value, so you need to be assured that there are some possible error, because whatever you are estimating might not be true. So there is some standard error. Okay, there is some standard error, and apart from that, the model which you are using, there can be the possibility that model risk is also there, means the model which you have created to find out the amount of loss to your portfolio from the change in the currency might not be true, because their model can be faulty. No one can guarantee that their model is accurate. So there is the standard error possibility, because if I am saying 89.5, now suppose it went like 87.5, so there is a gap of 2. So there is some standard error in your estimation. We call it as estimation error, means whatever you have estimated might not be accurate, as well as the model which you are using might not be that perfect. Clear? So these are the basic problems when we are using the estimation numbers. Clear? And if we will use our historical data, then who is sure that whatever has happened in the past will also again happen in the future. So in both the cases there are problems. So there are problems, that's why there is a risk. If these problems would not have been there, then there would have not been any kind of risk. Clear? So now when we are trying to manage our risk, we have to make sure that our plan is completely for the organization as a whole. Now when I am saying organization as a whole, there can be different departments. Okay, suppose I am talking about the Goldman Sachs. Okay, they have office in US, they have office in UK, office in like India, Dubai, okay, and we can say Bangkok, and different places they have their office. Now everyone is having their own potential risk. Every office have their own potential risk, because everyone is trading in the market, everyone is independently trading in the market. Now suppose if this firm of the US try to manage their risk individually, the firm of the UK try to manage their risk independently, the firm in India also try to manage their risk independently, so that can be very clumsy. Okay, so now what ERM does is they talk with all the different departments, or we can say they are in touch with all the different office, and they have one particular centralized system in which all the risk are included. Okay, now there can be some possibility that this office, the office of USA, having some trade with the Indians, and they have the risk of exchange rate of rupee per dollar. And here the office in India, they have done some trade with the US citizen, and they also have the risk of rupee dollar. So can you see, these both risk will offset each other. This both risk will offset the risk with each other. Suppose there is a risk from rise in rupee. If the rupee will rise, they will be at loss. And in this part, if the dollar will rise, they will be at loss. Means what? They both will offset each other. So if we'll see practically, they don't have to manage their risk. They don't have to manage their risk, because inside an organization their risk automatically offset. Means what? Suppose A, B, C, they all three are best friends. Okay, now A bought the Reliance Industry at 500. A bought the Reliance Industry at 500 and C sold the Reliance Industry at 500. So if we are taking these as a whole, if we are taking them as a whole, do you really see any kind of loss? Because if the Reliance Industry will reach from 500 to 600, A will be making the profit of 100, C will be making the loss of 100. Means the profit and loss will offset. So in reality there is no risk in such a scenario. So if we'll see the ERM, it is not just the integration of the risk, rather you are managing the risk complete as an organization. Clear? So what ERM is? This is basically a system, and this system will not be deployed just at the department level. This is employed for the enterprise as a whole. Clear? So we can say that we are not at all concerned with the risk of each office, rather we are understanding the risk of the company as a whole, and we are now taking the decisions and we are planning based on the company as a whole rather than their office in all the countries. Clear? Because after all, what matters is this company rather than their branches in different countries. Okay, so how can we calculate our expected loss? This is now our main point. Now suppose this is the scenario A and B. A gave $10,000 to B. Okay, now what is the expected loss that I have to calculate? I know that there is 10% chances that B will default. Okay, and even I know if B will default, he will pay me only say 8,000. He will pay only 8,000. There is a default of 2,000. There is a default of 2,000. So can I say what is the percentage of default? It is 20%. Means this is what? Loss given default. If default will happen, what is the percentage of loss? 20%. Clear? So this is the probability of default, that is 10%. Clear? What is the amount of default? It is 10,000. I am taking the whole part. And what is the loss given default? Say 20%. Clear? Or I can combine them and take the dollar value, that is 2,000. So what is my expected loss? Expected loss is calculated as probability of default multiplied with amount multiplied with loss given default, that is 10% of 10,000 multiplied with 20%. So this will come as 200. Means my expected loss is only 200. Why? Because the default of 2000 is not 100% sure, it is only 10% sure. Default of 2000 is not 100% sure, it is only 10% sure. So I can say that my expected loss is only $200. Clear? Let us take another example. Suppose A gave say $20,000, and this time the probability of default is say 25%. Clear? And loss given default is saying that 20%. Means if loss will happen, there is that B will give you 80% and there is a loss of 20%. He will give you 80% means he will return you back 16,000, but he will not return you back 4,000. And what is your amount which you have given to B? That is $20,000. So how you can calculate your expected loss? Very simple. 20,000 multiplied with probability of default multiplied with loss given default. Clear? So what will be your value? Your value will be $1,000. Clear? Got the idea? Now if your probability of default will increase, then your expected loss will increase. If your loss given default will increase, your expected loss will increase. If your amount will increase, your expected loss will increase. So can I say that expected loss have direct relationship with probability of default, loss given default, and the amount, the exposure. We call it as exposure at default. EAD means what is the amount which is at stake. Clear? If probability of default will rise, expected loss will rise. If loss given default will rise, expected loss will rise. If our exposure at default will rise, my expected loss will rise. Clear? So in this scenario, I am expecting that there is a loss of $1,000, but there is some unexpected loss. Means the loss happened beyond 10,000, beyond $1,000, beyond my expected loss. Means what is unexpected loss? That my loss will exceed my expected loss. What is unexpected loss? That my loss will exceed the expected loss. So now I want to calculate that what can be my unexpected loss. Clear? So when do we observe that unexpected loss will be higher? Means suppose a particular bank, HDFC Bank, he gave huge amount of loans to the homeowners. Okay. So during the period of recession, we will observe that bank will be having the huge amount of unexpected losses. But this will not happen in that case when the economy is in expansionary mode. So during this recession mode, most of the homeowners are going to default in their payments. Clear? Now there is something that if one will default, other will default, and he will default, then he will default, he will default, then he will default. Means what? This is a correlation risk. Means what? If one will start defaulting, second will default, and when second will default, third will default, and fourth will default, and so on. Means when we have the higher correlation between all the parties, when we have the higher correlation between both the parties, and if any one of them will default, other will also default. This is what the correlation means. If one will default, the other, those who are their peer and they are sharing the higher correlation, they are also going to default. Clear? So there is one example. Suppose HDFC Bank gave a home loan to Ram. Okay. And the value of the home when he gave the loan was 1 crore, and Ram was paying the EMI slowly. But during the period of recession, Ram said, I cannot give you the EMI because I don't have money. So he told bank, okay, take back your home. I don't want home. I am unable to pay you the EMI. But during the recession, do you think that the value of the home will stay at 1 crore? No. It fall down to say 70 lakhs. So means HDFC Bank suffered from both the side. One, he is unable to get the loan amount, and second, when he went into the market to sell the home, the price of the home was only 70 lakh. So there are both sides from where HDFC Bank suffered a loss. This is also the part of unexpected loss, and the calculation of unexpected loss will do later, not now. Clear? So we can measure our expected loss, but yes, it is quite difficult to measure our unexpected loss. Clear? Now we are moving ahead, and now we are again moving to our risk return trade off, means again we are going to compare our risk and return. If you'll remember, higher the risk, higher the return. Clear? Now you have government bonds. Okay, I am taking one example of government bonds, and I am taking an example of Reliance Industries bonds. Clear? Now understand the concept. If government will issue the bond, they are giving you the return of only 2%, means it is the yield, okay, that how much you are earning from government bond. But Reliance Industry is giving you the yield of 7%. So why is such a huge gap between the government bonds and Reliance Industry bond? The reason, there are few reasons. In the government bond there is no credit risk, means government will not default. Clear? Though they have the same maturity, means it will also expire in 1 year and it will also expire in 1 year, still government will give you a lower return and the Reliance Industry will give you the higher return. Why? Because government is not going to default, but yes, Reliance Industry can default. Next, there is no liquidity risk, means the government bonds are highly traded. At any time you want to sell your bond, you can sell in the market. But the Reliance Industry bonds are having the huge amount of liquidity risk, means you are unable to sell your bonds at the market rates. Next, taxation benefits. Government bond is providing you the taxation benefits, but the Reliance Industry bonds are not going to provide you the taxation benefits. Clear? These are the reasons the government bonds are giving you the lower return, but the Reliance Industry is giving you the higher return. So lower return means lower risk. These all are low risk and these are high risk. There is credit risk, liquidity risk, market risk. Apart from that, no taxation benefit, and all these will leads to the higher return. Clear? Now there is one factor, that is the risk tolerance. Okay, means how much risk you can tolerate. This is also an important factor. So when the people are ready to take huge amount of risk, okay, when people are ready to take huge amount of risk, the gap between these, if you can see now, the gap is 5%. This gap will drastically reduce to say only 2%. Okay, means the government, if it's offering 2%, Reliance Industry will offer 4%. Means what? For higher risk, now the investors are ready to take the low risk. For higher risk, investors are ready to take the lower return. Why so? Because now they are ready to take the huge amount of risk just for the lower amount of return. In that scenario, the difference between these risk free bond and the risky bond, the difference will drastically reduce. Clear? And it will be to the like very low levels. So this is just like a relationship which completely changes based on the risk tolerance. Earlier, higher the risk, higher the return, but now because the investors are taking the huge amount of risk, they are ready to take the huge amount of risk just for the small amount of return. Clear? So you need to really understand how much risk you can take, and for each amount of risk how much return you are expecting. Okay, so risk need to be recognized. Okay, you need to ask your top management that what can be the maximum amount of risk we can take, and then we must have a proper system which is clearly monitoring that the top level people, top level employees are not breaching the amount of risk. Suppose I will just give you an example. Suppose a company said that my daily war should not exceed $700. Okay, and there are traders sitting in the market and they are taking some position, and after a point of time one system said that now your war is 701. So this will create a red light, and the trader who is doing this transaction, he will instantly close down some position so that the war will again come to 700 or below 700. Clear? So we need a proper monitoring that our risk cannot be overshoot. Clear? And we need periodic independence so that we can check that the top management is taking the correct decision, as well as the implementation of this is also going properly. Now let us see that what are the different market risk availables. Okay, market risk means the risk will arise from the change in the prices. The risk which arise from the change in the prices or rates. Clear? So here it can be interest rate. Next we can have equity price risk. Next we can have the foreign exchange risk, and the last is the commodity price risk. So if I'll say that how the interest rate risk can impact us, so if the interest rate will increase or interest rate will decrease, this can really impact the value of the bonds. If the interest rate will increase, the price of the bond will decrease, and if the interest rate will decrease, the price of the bonds will increase. Now suppose if you are holding the bonds, if you have bonds in your hand, so what will happen? Interest will rise, the value of your assets will start decreasing. So you have the risk from the rise in interest rate. Clear? Now in the interest rate risk, there is one common risk, that is a basis risk. Now what is this basis risk means? Suppose you have hedged your position. Okay, hedging means you try to reduce your risk, or okay, you try to safeguard yourself from the coming risk. So how you try to hedge yourself? You have some inputs. Input can be the correlation between the price of the bond and the interest, but the correlation completely changed, and the way you have hedged your portfolio, it was now not effective, and because of which you will be have to suffer a huge loss, and that loss will be classified as the basis risk. The risk which is because the assumed correlation between the bond prices and the interest rate is not effective now. You have assumed that the correlation is 0.4, but now the correlation is 0.8, and this leads to the huge amount of losses because your hedging is based on this correlation. Clear? Next we have our equity price risk. Now equity price risk is divided into two different segments. One is the general market risk and the other one is the specific market risk. When I say general market risk, the change in the Nifty, okay, the change in the Nifty is the general market risk. Means if Nifty is going down, then I can say that okay, the whole market is going down. But when I am talking about the specific market risk and I have invested in the Reliance Industries, and if there are some bad news, okay, might be some strategic implementation is going wrong, or if there are some like the rise in the input prices for the Reliance Industries, okay, might be something some business line is not working properly, they are having the huge losses. So these are the specific kind of loss which leads to the fall in the price of Reliance Industry. But if the market is falling, suppose if Nifty is falling and Reliance is also falling, then I will say this is a general market risk. Clear? You cannot diversify your general market risk because you cannot capture the whole market. So you can diversify your specific risk. What is this diversification of specific risk means is, suppose if you will invest in Reliance Industry and you have 10,000 in your pocket, $10,000 in your pocket, and if you have invested the whole amount in the Reliance Industry and the price of the Reliance Industry falls, so you are concentrated in one security only. But if you start diversifying it, say you are investing in Infosys, you are investing in TCS, you are investing in Wipro, you are investing in Google, you are investing in FB, Facebook, means what? You are trying to diversify your amount. So if Reliance will fall down but still they are at the highest point, means what? Your whole portfolio will not be affected, because you have invested only say 2,000 in each asset. If one will fall, still your corpus of 8,000 is still safe. Clear? Next we have is the foreign exchange risk, means the change in the prices of rupee per dollar. Change in the prices of rupee per dollar. Now suppose you have one client in USA and he is going to give you dollar 10,000. He is going to give you dollar 10,000. But now the day you have contracted, at that point of time the dollar was trading at 75 per dollar, but on the day of payment dollar is trading at 65 rupee per dollar. So when earlier you are going to get the money, earlier you are about to get 7,50,000, but now you are going to get only 6,50,000. So in terms of domestic currency you have a loss of 1 lakh rupees. Clear? So this is a foreign exchange risk. And the last is we have our commodity price risk. Means what? Suppose you are a company, say Ganesh, okay, or Ashirwad, and you make wheat flour, okay, you make wheat flour and you sell in the market. Clear? Now what if the price of the wheat will increase? What if the price of the wheat will increase? This is your agri commodity. This is your agri commodity, and if the price of the wheat will increase, then obviously the input prices will increase and it will be difficult for them to sell the same quantity into the market, because when price will rise, demand will fall. Clear? So this is the whole idea about the market risk. Now when we will come to our credit risk, means what? I have given a specific amount, say $5,000 to B. Clear? Now there is a chance that B will default and he will not pay me this $5,000 back to me. So I can have a default risk. I can have a default risk. Clear? Now in the credit risk, basically there are 4 different kind of risk. Okay, write it down. One is the default risk, just now, which I have explained you. Next is the bankruptcy risk. Next is bankruptcy risk. Third one is your downgrade risk, and fourth one is our settlement risk. Now what is bankruptcy risk? Means you have given $5,000 to B. Okay, now B is insolvent. B is insolvent, and now you will try to sell all the assets of the B and you will be able to recover only, say, 3,000. So there is a loss of $2,000 to you. There is a loss of $2,000 to you. Next is our downgrade risk. Means if you have given $5,000 to B and now B's credit worthiness reduced in the market and it is subsequently it is decreasing. Okay, means what? Your risk is rising. Your risk is rising, but you have a previous contract for, say, 10% interest rate. You have the contract of 10% interest rate based on the previous credit worthiness, but now the credit worthiness decreased. So you should have increased your interest rate, but now you cannot increase your interest rate. Clear? And when credit worthiness will decrease, eventually B will be going to default. Clear? Next is our settlement risk, and this is basically that based on the derivatives. Okay, now what is that derivative? Means suppose here A and B, they decided that they are going to bet on Reliance Industry, and the market price of the Reliance Industry is suppose trading at 500, and A bet that the Reliance Industry will go up and B will bet that Reliance Industry will go down. So it happened that Reliance Industry went, suppose, 350. So B will take 150 from A, but now A is not going to give, because A is the losing party. A is the losing party. A will not give the money to B. A will not give the money to B. So this is a settlement risk, or we can say it as a counterparty risk. This is the counterparty to B. Who is the counterparty of B? A. Who is the counterparty of A? B. So B will be having the counterparty risk. Clear? Now let us just revise once again that what are the operational risk and what are the things it will include. Okay, so basically these are the potential losses. Reason of these losses are some internal process. Means your internal process is not strong enough, and you have to suffer a loss. Might be some human error, because there are lots of employees working in an organization, and some employees are not that proficient, they are not that enough proficient, and they made some error and that was not checked, and it created a huge amount of loss. Now apart from that, you can have some like frauds, okay, from the employees of the company. As well as operational risk will include the natural disasters. It will also include cyber security risk, as well as some like transaction which are not in the knowledge of the high management, but still the people at the lower management, they have done it. So these all are will be considered under our operational risk. Even the model risk, the model which we will create, okay, with the help of model we try to find out that what is the risk of the organization, and suppose if the models are not that accurate and they provided us the wrong amount of risk, and that leads to the like insolvency of the institution, then that is also covered under the operational risk. Okay, so here I end this topic, and there are few points which I'll be covering with another chapters, okay, such as your expected shortfall, or we can say it as RAROC, that is risk adjusted return on capital. Okay, these are the few points that I'll be covering in some other chapter together with some other lecture. Okay, so thank you.